In the huge, busy building called the Galactic Concordance Central Enrollment Spire, a worker named Vexlar sat at his desk all day. He had many arms and handled thousands of forms every shift. Vexlar came from a safe plant-eating world where life moved slow and calm. He liked rules and order, but today felt very wrong. His screen showed rows of names and codes. One name belonged to a human woman called Lieutenant Alara Voss. She worked as a helper in talks between planets. Her request asked for a simple visit to a nice school on Lyra Prime. The school taught polite words and customs. No danger waited there. Vexlar needed to type her danger level as very low. The code for low danger started with 007. But his mind wandered because an inspector would check his work soon. He typed 070 by mistake. The system read the new code and made a loud beep. The computer thought hard. It matched the wrong code to a different school. Kragthar Void Academy accepted only the strongest fighters from across the stars. Creatures went there who grew up on worlds that killed most of their young. Others arrived with metal parts inside their bodies, or came from places locked in endless war. No normal person ever lasted long at Kragthar. Most left fast, or never left at all. Vexlar did not notice the change. He pressed send and moved to the next form. Another worker called out that break time started soon. Vexlar stretched his arms and walked away. The mistake stayed hidden in the system. Far away on a small Earthship, Alara Voss packed her bag. She wore a clean blue uniform with shiny buttons on the shoulders. Her hair stayed tied back in a neat way. She liked order, too, but she also liked surprises. A message arrived on her screen. It said her school spot got approved. She smiled wide and said out loud, "This trip will teach me new things." The shuttle ride took many days. She read books about alien cultures and practiced greetings in strange languages. Neared the black moon called Kragthar. She looked out the window. The place looked dark and sharp, with tall metal towers and red lights flashing everywhere. Ships bigger than mountains floated nearby. Some looked like they carried weapons that could break planets. Alara stepped off the shuttle onto cold, hard ground. Air hissed around her suit because the outside held no breathable gas. She carried only one small case and walked toward the big gate. Guards waited there. One stood very tall, with scales and sharp teeth. Another looked like a giant spider, with many eyes and claws. Both stared at her without moving. A screen above the gate showed her name and picture. It also showed her assigned group. The tall guard made a low growl and said, "This must be wrong. A human here. Humans break easy. They have no armor, no poison, no extra limbs." The spider guard clicked its mouthparts and answered, "The system says she belongs here. We must follow the system." The tall guard shook his head and waved her forward. Alara walked past them with steady steps. She looked up at the huge doors and said, "Hello, everyone. I hope we learn a lot together." Inside the main hall, hundreds of new cadets stood in lines. Some towered over 10 feet tall. Others floated or crawled. All came from kinds that hunted or fought to stay alive. They wore heavy armor or carried blades that glowed. Alara stood among them in her light uniform and simple boots. Heads turned toward her. Many made quiet sounds of surprise or laughter. A voice boomed from speakers high above. "Welcome to Kragthar Void Academy. Here only the strong survive. The weak become lessons for the strong. Today we test who deserves to stay. Orientation begins now. Follow the red path or leave forever." The crowd moved. Alara moved with them. She kept her back straight and her face calm. A big creature with 6 legs and long claws bumped her shoulder by accident. It looked down and snorted. "You will not last the first hour, little soft thing. Go home before you become food." Alara turned her head and looked straight into its many eyes. She smiled wide and bright, like she heard a funny joke. She said, "Thank you for the advice. I will try my best." The creature blinked all its eyes at once, then walked faster to get away from her. The red path led to a wide open room with many machines and traps. Lights blinked in warning colors. Instructors stood on platforms above. They wore black armor and watched like hawks. One instructor pointed at Alara and spoke into a speaker. "The human will start first. Let us see how fast she fails." Alara stepped onto the marked circle. A wall dropped behind her. No way back now. A loud siren sounded, and the floor shook. Small robots rose from holes. They carried stun guns and nets. The first test began. She dodged the first shot by bending at the waist. The net flew past her head. She rolled forward, picked up a piece of broken metal from the ground, and threw it. The metal hit a robot eye and made sparks fly. The machine stopped moving. Alara kept moving forward. She smiled again, like this counted as fun. More robots came. She jumped over one, grabbed its arm, and twisted until the joint broke. She used the broken arm to block another stun blast. Then she ran toward the end line. The crowd watched in silence. No one expected her to reach halfway. No one expected her to laugh softly while she ran. At the finish line, an instructor waited. He held a tablet and looked confused. "You completed stage 1 in record time for your size. How?" Alara stopped running. She breathed a little fast, but her voice stayed even. She said, "I practiced running from angry dogs back home. It helps." She smiled once more. The instructor stared at her face, then looked at the tablet again. He whispered, "This makes no sense." Behind them, the other cadets started their turns. Many strong ones struggled. Some fell. Some yelled in pain. Alara stood to the side and watched. She clapped when someone did well. Of help. When someone looked scared. The tall, scaled guard from the gate walked close. He leaned down and asked, "Why do you smile when death waits everywhere?" Alara looked up at him and answered, "Because mistakes can turn into good things. Sometimes the wrong place becomes the right place." The guard made a strange sound deep in his throat. He turned and walked away, shaking his head. Other cadets heard her words. They looked at her with new eyes, some with fear, some with wonder. Night came to the black moon, though no sun ever showed here. Lights dimmed in the sleeping halls. Alara found her small room. She set her case on the bunk and opened it. Inside she kept a picture of her family on Earth. She touched the glass and whispered, "I think I will like it here." She lay down on the hard bed and closed her eyes. Her smile stayed on her face, even in sleep. Outside the room, voices whispered through the halls. The human should not be here. The human should die fast. But the human smiles like, "She knows a secret no one else understands." The clerical mess grew bigger with every hour. No one fixed it yet. No one dared. No one wanted to admit the tiny mistake sent something dangerous into the heart of the deadliest school in the galaxy. Something small and soft that refused to break. Something that smiled when it should scream. And so the first day ended with quiet tension in every dark corner of Kragthar Void Academy. Everyone waited for tomorrow. Everyone wondered how long the smile would last. The second day at Kragthar Void Academy started with a loud horn that shook the metal walls. Alara woke up fast. She made her bed tight and neat, then put on her blue uniform. She ate a small breakfast bar from her bag. It tasted like home. She walked out to join the others. The big open field waited under bright red lights. Hundreds of cadets stood in perfect lines. Instructors walked between them. One instructor carried a long staff that sparked at the end. He stopped in front of Alara and looked down at her small size. He said, "Today we find out who truly belongs here. The trials begin now. No mercy, no second chances." First came the vacuum test. Cadets had to walk into a long tube with no air. The tube closed, and all air left fast. Most cadets panicked. They grabbed at their suits, or banged on the walls. Some passed out quick. The instructors pulled them out and marked them as weak. Elara stepped in when her turn came. The door shut behind her. Air rushed out. She felt her suit tighten. But she stayed calm. She counted her breaths slow and even. She remembered stories from old astronauts on Earth. She started to hum a quiet song from her childhood. The sound stayed in her helmet and made her feel less alone. Outside, the instructors watched the screen. One said, "Look at her heart rate. It barely changed." Another said, "Impossible for a soft species. She must fake it." The time stretched long. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15. Finally the door opened. Elara walked out. She took a deep breath of fresh air and smiled at the instructor. She said, "That felt refreshing. Thank you." The instructor stared with wide eyes. He wrote on his tablet, then moved on without a word. Other cadets whispered. The human did not scream. The human did not beg. Next test brought the poison room, a sealed chamber filled with different toxins. One by one, cadets went inside. They had to stand still while gas filled the space. Most fell after the first dose. Their bodies shook. Their eyes rolled back. Medics dragged them out. Elara entered last. She stood in the middle. The first gas came. It smelled sharp like cleaning chemicals. Her eyes watered a little, but she kept standing. The instructor outside spoke through the speaker. "Increase level." She nodded like she agreed. The second gas came, stronger. Her skin felt warm, but she breathed steady. She thought about spicy food back home and how it made her nose run. This felt similar. The instructor raised the level again. Then, again. Cadets from Predator worlds usually dropped by now. Elara stayed on her feet. She even waved at the window and said, "Could we try a bit more, please? My body learns fast." The instructor froze. He looked at his controls, then back at her. He shut off the gas. The door opened. Elara walked out, coughing softly but smiling. She said, "Thank you for the test. It helped me wake up." The tall, scaled instructor from the first day walked close. He bent down and asked, "How do you live through that?" "Humans have weak lungs, weak blood," Elara looked up and answered. "We adapt. We always have. Maybe that counts as our strength." The instructor made a low rumble, then walked away shaking his head. After poison came the live fire run, a long path with moving guns that shot real energy bolts. Cadets had to sprint from cover to cover while dodging blasts. Many got hit and fell screaming. Medics carried them off. Some never got up again. Elara started her run. She moved quick but not wild. She watched the pattern of the shots. She counted beats in her head. 1, 2, dodge. 3, 4, slide. She rolled under a low beam, then jumped over a gap. A bolt grazed her arm. It burned through the sleeve. She felt the heat, but kept going. At the end, she crossed the line with smoke rising from her uniform. She patted the burn and said, "Ouch, that stings a little." The crowd watched in silence. A six-legged creature that laughed at her yesterday now stared with open mouth. Another cadet, a tall one with glowing skin, whispered, "She runs like she knows the way. Guns all ready." The last test of the day brought ritual combat. Each cadet faced a beast picked by the instructors. The beasts came hungry and mean. One after another, cadets fought. Some won with brute force, some lost fast and got carried away bleeding. Elara got matched with a razor-claw hexaped, a huge thing from a red desert world. It weighed 4 times her size. Its claws could cut steel. It roared loud enough to hurt ears. The instructor said, "Begin." The hexaped charged fast. Elara stepped to the side at the last second. The claws scraped the ground where she stood. She grabbed one leg as it passed. She used its speed to twist her body and flip the beast. It crashed hard on its back. The crowd gasped. Elara jumped on top. She locked one arm around a thick neck and pressed a knee into its side. She squeezed with steady pressure. The hexaped thrashed, then slowed. It tapped the ground 3 times to signal surrender. Elara let go and stood up. She helped the beast to its feet, at her with confused eyes. She patted its shoulder and said, "Good fight. You have strong legs. Next time, brace them better." The hexaped made a soft clicking sound, then walked off the field. The instructors talked fast among themselves. One said, "She used no weapon, no armor, no poison." "How?" The tall scaled one answered, "She used her brain. That scares me more." Night fell again. Elara sat in the eating hall. She picked at alien food that looked strange, but tasted okay. Cadets started to sit near her, a small group at first, then more. They asked questions, quiet and careful. One asked, "Why do you smile when pain comes?" Elara thought for a moment, then said, "Smiling helps me think clear. It tells my body everything will work out." A predator cadet with sharp teeth leaned in and said, "You beat my cousin today. He never lost before." Elara nodded and said, "He fought well. I learned from him too." The cadet stared, then gave a small nod. Respect. Word spread through the dark halls. The human survives. Human wins. The human smiles like the danger means nothing. Instructors met in secret rooms. They pulled up her file. They saw the wrong code. They saw the mistake. One said, "We must fix this before she dies." Another said, "Look at the scores. She does not die. She grows stronger." We wait. We watch. Elara lay in her bunk that night. She touched the small burn on her arm. It hurt, but not bad. She thought about the tests and the faces around her. She whispered to herself, "This place tries to break people, but maybe it builds them instead." She closed her eyes and smiled in the dark. Outside the room, voices grew louder. Cadets argued. Some said, "Kill the human before she shames us all." Others said, "Follow her, she sees things we miss." The tension built like a storm ready to break. Kragthar Void Academy felt different now. One small human changed the air. One smile turned fear into questions. The clerical mess kept growing. No one fixed the error yet. Everyone waited to see what happened next, wondered how far the smile could carry her. The third day brought the biggest test yet, the midterm gauntlet. The instructors called it the Crucible. They dropped every cadet onto a fake death world made of sharp rocks, hot sand, and thick poison fog. No food, no water, no help for 3 full days. Teams formed fast. Predators grouped with predators. Machines stayed with machines. The strong ignored the weak. No one asked Elara to join any team. She stood alone at the drop point. The shuttle door opened, and wind hit her face full of dust. She stepped out onto red dirt that burned through her boots. She looked around and saw other cadets running in packs. Some already fought over good spots. She waved at a few who looked back, but they turned away fast. She shrugged and said to herself, "Okay, solo it is." The rules said find the extraction point on the far side. Survive the beasts, the traps, and the other teams. First one there wins extra rank. The rest just try not to die. Elara checked her small pack. It held a basic knife, a water filter, cloth, and a light blanket. Nothing fancy. She started walking. The first hours passed quiet. She found a dry riverbed and followed it down. Wind howled through cracks in the rock. She stayed low and moved careful. She saw tracks from big creatures with many claws. She smiled and thought, "Good to know who shares the neighborhood." By midday, heat pressed down hard. She stopped under an overhang and used her blanket to make shade. She dug a small hole with her hands and lined it with the cloth. Then she waited for night to collect dew. She remembered lessons from desert hikers back on Earth. Patience matters more than speed. A pack of small scavengers came close. They looked like lizards with extra legs and sharp teeth. They hissed and circled her. Elara did not run. She broke off a piece of her last food bar and tossed small bits toward them. One brave one ate it, then another. Soon 5 of them sat near her watching. She spoke soft and slow. "Hello, friends. Want to trade?" They came closer. She taught them to sit still for treats. They learned fast. Night fell cold and black. Ilara built a small shelter from loose rocks and her blanket. She curled up inside, with the lizard pack curled around her for warmth. They kept watch while she slept a little. She woke to sounds of fighting, far away. Teams clashed over a water spring. She stayed put. No need to rush. On the second day she moved again. She found broken metal from an old shipwreck. She used it to make simple traps. A loop of wire here, a heavy rock on a stick there. She caught 2 fat burrowers for food. She cooked them over a small fire made from dry scrub. The smell drew attention. A team of 4 tall, insect-like cadets with hard shells came upon her camp. They carried spears and looked hungry for a fight. The leader clicked loud and said, "Soft human, give us your food, or we take it." Ilara stood up slow. She smiled wide and said, "Hello, would you like some roasted burrower? It is fresh and tasty." They paused, confused. No one offered food in the gauntlet. They expected screams or attacks. She held out cooked meat on a flat stone. The insects looked at each other. One stepped forward and took a piece. It tasted, then clicked happy sounds. The others joined. They sat around her fire and ate. She shared her water too. She said, "Fighting wastes energy. We can share and both reach the end." They nodded slow. One asked, "Why help us? You have no team." Ilara answered, "Teams make things easier, but kindness makes them stronger." Word traveled slow through the gauntlet. Cadets talked on hidden comms. The human feeds strangers. The human smiles at enemies. More came to her spot. A group of furry Death World runners joined next. They brought news of traps ahead. She listened and shared her map, drawn in the dirt with a stick. They added their own marks. Soon 12 cadets sat with her. They came from different kinds, but listened when she spoke. On the third day, they moved as one loose group. Ilara walked in front, pointed out dangers before they hit. A hidden pit here, a poison vine there. She used her traps to catch food for everyone. The lizard pack followed too, growing bigger each hour. They acted like small guards, nipping at heels of anyone who got too close. A big ambush waited near the end. A strong team of scaled warriors blocked the path to the extraction point. They had better weapons and numbers. They yelled, "Come out, human! We claim your head for honor." Ilara stopped her group. She turned and said, "No need for blood. Let us talk first." The scaled leader laughed loud and charged. Ilara did not fight back with fists. She stepped aside and used the ground. A scaled warrior slipped on loose sand she left wet from her filter. Another tripped over a wire trap she set earlier. Her group moved smart. They flanked and pushed without killing. They tied up the attackers with vines and left notes pinned to their armor. The notes said, "You fought well. Next time, watch your footing. Drink water and rest. Some food nearby." The scaled team woke up later, angry but alive. They read the notes and looked at the small pile of roasted meat. They ate in silence, then walked away quiet. No one chased Ilara after that. The extraction point came in sight. A tall beacon flashed green. Ilara and her group reached it first. No one else close. The shuttle landed, and doors opened. Instructors waited inside, looking shocked. One said, "You survived and brought followers." Ilara stepped on board. She turned to her group and said, "Thank you all. We make a good team." They nodded. Some smiled back for the first time. Back at the academy, the command room buzzed. Instructors watched replay screens. They saw the human alone, then not alone. They saw her feed beasts, befriend cadets, turn fights into talks. The tall, scaled instructor from before stood silent. He finally spoke. "She does not break the rules. She changes them." Another said, "This changes everything. The human thrives where others die." Moon again. Ilara sat in the eating hall. Her new friends filled seats around her. They shared stories from their worlds. She listened and laughed, soft. They asked about Earth. She told simple tales of oceans, forests, and people who never give up. One cadet said, "You smile like nothing scares you." Ilara answered, "Fear comes, but I choose what to do with it. Smiling helps me choose brave." In the halls, whispers grew louder. The human leads without force. The human wins without hate. Cadets from strong teams watched her table with new eyes. Some joined quietly, others stayed back but listened. The academy felt alive in a different way. Tension turned to wonder, fear mixed with respect. Instructors met late. They pulled her file again. The wrong code stared back at them. One said, "The mistake sent her here." Another said, "Maybe no mistake at all. Maybe the galaxy needed this." The tall one nodded slow. "We keep watching. We see what she builds next." Ilara lay in her bunk that night. Healed fast. She thought about the gauntlet, the friends, the smiles. She whispered to the dark, "Thank you for the hard days. They teach the best lessons." She closed her eyes, and the smile stayed gentle on her face. Outside voices carried through the metal walls. "The human changes us." The smile spreads. The clerical mess turned into something bigger. No one wanted to fix it now. Everyone waited, hungry for the next part. Everyone wondered what one small human could do. When the galaxy watched close, the fourth day arrived, with heavy silence, across Kragthar Void Academy. Cadets woke early, knowing what waited. The final trial loomed, the annihilation ring. No one spoke loud. No one joked. The Colosseum sat deep under the black moon. A huge round arena, carved from solid iron. Walls rose high, with seats filled by instructors and old graduates. Lights burned cold white. The floor stretched wide enough for armies. The war AI waited inside, ready to recreate the galaxy's worst battles. Ilara walked to the entrance in her scarred blue uniform. She carried no extra gear, just the small knife from the gauntlet, and a calm face. Her followers from the Death World exercise came behind. They numbered 20 now, a mix of scaled warriors, insect fighters, furry runners, and even 2 cyborgs who once laughed at her. They stood close without orders. They chose to stand with her. The tall, scaled instructor met them at the gate. He looked at the group, then at Ilara. He said the rules stay the same. Enters alone. The AI throws waves of enemies. Historical killers from forgotten wars. No help comes. No retreat allowed. Most teams fall in the first wave. Few reach the third. No one ever beat the final wave in 300 years. He paused, then added, "You may enter together if you wish. The choice belongs to you." Ilara turned to her friends. She asked, "Do you want this with me?" They answered yes in many voices. One said, "You led us through the gauntlet. We follow now." Another said, "We learn from you. We fight with you." Ilara nodded once. She smiled bright and said, "Then we go as one. Let us show what teamwork looks like." The gate opened with a deep groan. They stepped inside, the floor sealed behind them. Darkness fell for a moment, then light snapped on. The arena floor changed. It became a broken city from an ancient war. Smoke rose from fake ruins. Towers leaned ready to fall. Enemy shapes appeared. First wave came fast. Small drones with blades and fire. They swarmed like angry insects. Raised her hand and said, "Hold positions. Use the ruins for cover. Do not chase. Spread out." The group moved quick. They took spots behind walls and fallen beams. The drones attacked in tight groups. Ilara watched their pattern. She counted turns and speeds. She called out, "Now, left side, duck!" The group dropped as one. A drone blade passed over heads. They rose and struck back. One furry runner threw a rock that cracked a drone core. Another used claws to rip wires. A cyborg fired a small pulse that fried 3 at once. The first wave ended fast. The AI learned. It sent second wave, bigger machines with thick armor and heavy guns. They rolled forward, shooting plasma that melted stone. Ilara studied them. She saw weak joints at the legs. She pointed and said, "Aim low, hit the knees." They listened. They used the city rubble. One scaled warrior lifted a heavy slab and dropped it on a machine leg. It crashed. Another group flanked and hammered joints until metal screamed. The machine slowed, then stopped. In the seats above, whispered loud. The human directs without yelling. She sees weak points no one else notices. The instructors watched screens. Numbers climbed, higher than any team before. The tall scaled one gripped his staff tight. He said she turns chaos into order. The third wave hit hardest. The AI pulled monsters from nightmare worlds. Giant walkers with many arms, laser beasts that moved like shadows, flying hunters with poison tails. The arena shook with each step. Elara groups spread thinner. They tired but did not break. She ran between them, checking wounds, giving water from small packs, speaking soft words. "Keep breathing. Stay together. We got this." A laser beast charged her. She rolled aside, grabbed a piece of rebar from the ground. She jammed it into a glowing eye port. Sparks flew. The beast roared and swung. Elara ducked under arms. She climbed its back using joints like stairs. She reached the neck and twisted a panel loose. Wires pulled free. The beast dropped smoking. Cheered loud for the first time. More enemies came. The group fought smart. They used each other's strengths. The insect cadets spun webs to trap flyers. The cyborgs linked arms to make shields. The furry runners darted fast to draw fire. The scaled ones held lines with raw power. Elara moved everywhere. She patched a wound here. She threw a distraction there. She smiled even when plasma scorched close. She said, "Good job, everyone. We almost there." The final wave began. The AI core appeared, a huge floating orb surrounded by shields. It sent copies of itself, small orbs that linked and fired together. They formed patterns deadly and perfect. No team ever broke that defense. The energy field burned anything close. Elara stopped the group. She looked at the orb long. She said, "We do not fight strength with strength. We fight smart. Watch the pattern. It repeats every 12 seconds. On the 9th beat the shields flicker. We hit then, all at once." They nodded. They trusted her count. Orbs danced. The pattern ran. Elara whispered 9 now. They charged as one. The scaled warriors threw heavy debris to block shots. The runners slipped through gaps. The insects shot silk to pull small orbs down. The cyborgs fired everything they had. Elara ran straight at the core. She jumped high using a fallen beam as a ramp. She reached the flicker moment. She drove her knife into a thin seam. The blade sank deep. Energy surged wild. The core screamed electronic pain. Shields collapsed. The copies fell dark. The arena lights dimmed. The floor stopped shaking. Silence covered everything. Then a single tone sounded. Victory. A war AI voice spoke flat. No errors detected. Total system overload. First completion in recorded history. The gate opened. Cadets poured out cheering. They lifted Elara high. She laughed soft and waved them down. The tall, scaled instructor walked forward slow. He stopped in front of her. He said, "You beat the unbeatable. You used no brute force. You used mind. You used heart. Academy records changed today. Because of you." Elara looked around at her friends, at the watching crowd. She said, "Thank you all. We did this together. No one alone wins here." The instructor nodded once. He turned to the seats and raised his staff. The crowd roared, loud enough to shake walls. Back in the command room, screens replayed the fight over and over. Instructors sat quiet. One said the human rewrote the trial. Another said she makes warriors better than machines. The mistake from the enrollment spire felt small now. It brought something new, something the galaxy never saw before. Night settled on the black moon. Elara sat with her group in the eating hall. They shared food and stories. Laughter filled the air for the first time. Cadets from other teams came close. They listened. They asked to join next time. Alara welcomed them all. She said there is room for everyone. In her bunk later, she touched the new scar on her hand from the final jump. She thought about the waves, the crumpling of heaven. Friends, the victory. She whispered, we turned the ring into something else, something alive. She closed her eyes. The smile rested easy on her face. Outside, the halls buzzed with new energy. The annihilation ring fell. The human led the fall. The clerical mess turned legend. No one spoke of fixing the error now. Everyone looked forward. Everyone waited for graduation day. Everyone knew the smile carried them all the way. Graduation day came to Kragthar Void Academy with bright lights and heavy air. The black moon felt different now. Cadets stood in perfect rows across the main parade ground. They wore fresh armor, polished to shine. Instructors lined the high platforms. Flags from 100 worlds hung still in the thin wind. The tall, scaled commandant stood at the center podium. He held the Void Star medal in his large clawed hand. No one had ever seen him look unsure before. Elara Voss walked forward alone at first. Her blue uniform carried new patches from every group she helped. Her arm bore a thin scar from the annihilation ring. Her face stayed calm and kind. She stopped in front of the commandant. The crowd watched without a sound. Even the wind seemed to wait. The commandant cleared his throat, deep and low. He spoke into the speakers so every corner heard. Today marks the end of old ways. Lieutenant Elara Voss, you came here by accident. A mistake in numbers sent you to our forge. We thought you would break fast. We thought you would leave in pieces, or not leave at all. Instead you stayed. You fought. You led. You won where no one wins. You changed cadets who once hunted alone into a force that thinks as one. The annihilation ring lies quiet because of you. The galaxy hears your name now. He lifted the Void Star. It gleamed silver and black, with tiny lights inside, like captured stars. He pinned it to her chest with careful claws. Elara stood straight. She looked up at him and said, "Thank you, sir. I learned more here than I ever expected." The commandant stepped back one pace. He looked at her face for a long moment. Then he did something no one remembered seeing. He smiled, small and tight but real. The crowd gasped soft. The sound rolled through the rows like wind over metal. He turned to the assembly and raised his voice. "This human showed us strength comes not only from claws or armor or poison. Strength comes from choice, from refusing to quit, from smiling when the dark presses close. Because of her, Kragthar stands taller today. We name her the first human instructor ever invited to return. She will teach here if she chooses." Elara turned slow. She faced the sea of faces. Predators with sharp teeth, insect fighters with clicking mandibles, furry runners with bright eyes, cyborgs with glowing parts, Death World survivors who once sneered at soft things. Now they looked at her with respect. Some with open wonder, some with something close to love. She raised her voice clear and steady so all could hear. "I came here because of a clerical mess. I stayed because of all of you. You taught me your ways. I hope I taught you a little of mine. We are different. We come from worlds that shaped us hard, but together we become better. No one wins alone. No one survives alone. We build each other up. That is the real lesson of Kragthar." She paused, then smiled her bright, wide smile, the same one that started on the first day, the same one that carried her through poison fire beasts and impossible waves. The smile that made strong things feel small and small things feel mighty. She said it was never a mistake. It was exactly where I needed to be. Thank you for letting me stay. The crowd roared. It started low, then grew loud enough to shake the towers. Cadets stomped feet. Claws rattled armor. Voices joined in a chant. Human, human, human. The sound filled the air and echoed off the black stone. Elora stepped down from the podium. Her friends from the gauntlet and the ring surrounded her. They clapped her back, they shook her hand, they bowed in their own ways. One scaled warrior knelt and said, "You gave me honor when I had none." Another insect cadet clicked happy and said, "We follow you anywhere." A furry runner hugged her quick and shy. The cyborg saluted sharp and bright. In the command room high above, instructors watched the scene. One pulled up the old enrollment file. The transposed digits glowed red on the screen. The tall scaled instructor, who first met her at the gate, stared at the numbers. He whispered 2 digits. 2 small numbers changed everything. He reached out and pressed delete. The record vanished clean. No trace left. No mistake to fix. Far away in the Galactic Concordance Central Enrollment Spire, Vexlar sat at his desk. He finished his shift and checked old logs. He saw the human name linked to Krogthar. He froze. His tentacles shook. He remembered the day the inspector came close. He remembered typing fast. He whispered, "I sent her to death. I sent her to the end." Instead, she became legend. He closed the file. He never spoke of it again. News spread fast across the galaxy. Ships carried stories from station to station. Humans heard first. They laughed in surprise, then pride. Other species listened careful. Some feared the change, some welcomed it. Applications flooded the Academy inbox. From Earth, from colony worlds, from places no one expected. Young humans asked to train at the Deadliest school. They wanted what Alara found. They wanted to smile in face of fire. Kragthar changed slow but sure. Classes mixed more. New drills taught teamwork over solo kills. Instructors added lessons on human tricks. Adapt or die became adapt and grow. Ilara took her place as teacher. She stood in training halls. She showed cadets how to use the ground, how to read patterns, how to turn fear into focus. She smiled every day. She said the same thing each time. Mistakes can become gifts if you let them. Years later, cadets still talked about her. The first human who broke the ring. The soft one who led the hard. The one who smiled like the galaxy played a joke and she got it. The story grew into legend. Parents told it to young ones. Warriors carved her name on armor. Ships named after her carried explorers to new stars. Ilara stayed on the Black Moon longer than planned. She taught. She learned. She made friends across kinds. She never lost the smile. It stayed gentle and strong. It reminded everyone that even in the darkest place, light finds a way. Quiet night. She stood on a high tower, looking at the stars. She touched the void star on her chest. She thought about Earth, her family, the simple life she left. She whispered, "Thank you for the wrong turn. It brought me home in a different way." Below in the halls, lights burned warm. Cadets studied late. They laughed, they argued, they planned, they grew. The academy that once ate the weak now fed the brave. All because one small human arrived by mistake. All because she smiled like it was the best thing that ever happened. And somewhere in the vast empty between stars, the clerical mess became the greatest gift the galaxy ever received. No one fixed it. No one wanted to. The smile lived on. The legend grew. The Deadliest Academy trained the best. Because one woman refused to break. Because one woman chose to build instead. And the galaxy never forgot her name. Ilara Voss, the human who smiled her way to victory.